for another edition of Bet. I'm Anita Marks on this Friday afternoon, and we are locked and loaded. We got Ben Baby joining us, not to talk about the NFL, but we're talking about boxing. Snelling with a little NBA, and Stormy Bounantony with some XFL. It's the last regular season week of the XFL, and we are getting ready for XFL playoffs as well. But let's bring in Ben Baby. Now, Ben Baby, not only do you have a super cool name, and not only are you coming to us live from Las Vegas, but folks might not know this, you double dip. Not only do you do NFL, but you do fist cuffs as well. So let me start with this question. As we know, we got Davis and Garcia going up against each other later on this weekend, of course, on Saturday. How rare is it that now we've got two top-tier boxers, undefeated records, and in their 30s that are facing off against each other like Davis and Garcia? We don't see this that often. How rare is it?
Yeah, Anita, it's incredibly rare when you look at the backgrounds and pedigrees of both Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia, guys who have massive followings, guys who aren't in their 30s yet, and they have really set the week ablaze here. You can get, being in Vegas, being at the press conference yesterday and just walking around the strip, you can tell there's a lot of excitement around this fight. You're expecting a lot of big names. Or ESPN's Mike Coppinger said that they expect Justin Bieber, Bad Bunny, maybe some pro sports stars from other leagues to be in attendance. This is going to be one of the biggest fights in boxing that we've had in quite some time.
I know, from what I understand, the most celebrities in like a decade have asked for credentials and tickets to attend this fight. So no doubt it's going to be a big one. With that being said, Davis, a large favorite, minus 230. A lot of juice to put out. Does that number make sense to you between these two fighters and their body of work?
Anita, what's crazy about this is that's actually relatively close odds for boxing. It's not, it's not rare that we see odds of minus 600, minus 700, even minus 1,200 for some title fight. So the fact that we have it at even minus 260 shows you that Vegas believes this will be a more competitive fight than we usually see in these type of situations. But yes, you look at Gervonta Davis's pedigree, what he's been able to do, his status as a champion in other divisions, and even though this is going to be at a catch weight, a lot of people believe Gervonta will be the favorite, and Ryan is not fazed, even though he's the underdog. He talked about that at the press conference yesterday, and he is welcoming this challenge, which is a main reason why this fight was even made in the first place.
Well, the total rounds here, over-unders at 7.5. The under is juiced to minus 150. So obviously, the odds makers do not believe that this is going to go the distance. Do you?
I don't think it's going to go the distance either. I mean, hearing both of these guys talk and watching how they perform in the ring, you can tell that they want to put on a show, and Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia both connect on a high percentage of their power punches. Both don't land a lot of jabs. And Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia called him out yesterday in the presser for his inactivity in the fights. He doesn't throw a ton of punches, but he makes them count when he does. There was going to be a lot of power on display. Ryan Garcia said, Captain Hook is coming, in reference to Gervonta Davis saying that Ryan's only got that left hook. And Ryan said, one hook is all I need. Now, will that be enough to stop him? That's going to be the question. But everything that we've heard from the fighters, from the camps, and looking at the odds, it is very clear that it would be a surprise if this went the distance.
All right, so let's take a look at a plethora of ways that you could wager on this fight, and specifically how many think that this fight is going to end. So here are some of the common odds that we see out there, right? To win the fight, obviously, again, Davis is favored at minus 230. Garcia, the underdog. KO, TKO, or DQ. You can see those odds minus 140 for Davis, plus 310 for Garcia, and by decision, plus 550 for Davis, plus 650 for Garcia. So seeing how this fight potentially could end and seeing how these odds makers are anticipating how this fight is going to play out, what say you, Ben Baby?
I like Gervonta Davis by knockout, and I like the over on those rounds. You look at what Gervonta's done in some of these fights. He's done a very good job of understanding what it means to be a prize fighter. And honestly, guys that he could have gotten out in earlier rounds, he's kind of let the fight draw itself out. And then when it's time to close the show and put on a performance, he tends to do that. My big question in this fight is Ryan Garcia going to be a skilled enough boxer and be able to use that size and reach advantage to keep Davis on the outside and not let Tank, who's got a lot of power and is a better boxer than people give him credit for, can he keep Tank from coming inside and really wearing him down and being in position to land one of those power shots? Now, we talked about, how the odds are juiced for a knockout, especially when you look at the under. But if you like Ryan Garcia, there's a little bit of a sliver of hope for you. You look at that plus 650, that was actually as high as plus 700 earlier in the week. And if you feel like Ryan is going to win, I think the best bet will be for him to box, use his distance, use that range, use that jab, something that he's been trying to work with trainer Joe Goosen in his last several fights. That will be a good way for him, a smart way to go about it, because I don't know if you want to trade with Tank. So if you are pulling for Ryan Garcia and you want win a little bit of money, heck, not even a little bit, a big amount of money, maybe that plus 650 is going to be the bet for you.
Bin Baby, before we switch gears here, just out of curiosity, any other fights on this card that you're eyeing that you really like?
There's a couple. There's one that is really nice. Gabriel Rosado and Bek Melikuziev on that undercard. This is a rematch of a fight from recently. In fact, Melikuziev was a highly touted prospect. Gabe Rosado picked up a massive upset win, a very rough and rugged fighter, one of boxing's top bona fide veterans in the sport. I think that's going to be a really exciting fight. Another one, David Morrell on the co-main event, a Cuban who a lot of people are buzzing about. So it should be a very good card, but the action that we're going to see in the ring and on the strip on Saturday night, it should be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a massive night for the sport.
Bin Baby, I can't let you go without talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. I hope that's okay with you. I love them coming into this next season, winning the Super Bowl, and you could get them right now at plus 850. Just out of curiosity, your thoughts on, what their plans have been so far in this offseason, what their plan might be for the draft, and how good of odds are those to take the Bengals right now at plus 850 to win the Super Bowl this coming season?
Yeah, Anita, someone who covers that team on a daily basis and is based out of Cincinnati, keeping an eye on those Bengals. This is a team that feels like they're on the cusp of making that breakthrough. Obviously, they were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago and were a drive away from getting back there in that rematch against Kansas City in the AFC title game. You go look at the offensive resources they have and guys like Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, with Burrow and Higgins eyeing potential extensions, as they approach the draft next week. They are looking to take the best player available. We talked to Bengals Executive Director of Player Personnel, Duke Tobin, just a day ago, and Coach Zach Taylor earlier in the week as well. And it's very clear that they're looking for the best player that can help them out. Maybe a tight end falls in their lap like Utah's Dalton Kincaid, or maybe they go look at an edge rusher or a cornerback such as Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State if he's still on the board. Now, one of the problems is at 28, you may not know who's there, but the Bengals will need to figure out who to get, and they will need a high-impact player because of these big salaries that are going to hit the books in a couple of years.
Yeah, I was speaking to a scout earlier today, and he said Kincaid to the Cincinnati Bengals. Watch out, baby. Listen, we've got Andre Snellings, who's joining the show right now. Him and I are going to be talking some NBA. But Bin Baby, he's a huge Bengals fan. So your words are just music to his ears. Before we let you go, Dre, any questions for Bin Baby about your Bengals?
What's up, Ben? Houday. I guess I listened to you list the different potential best players available, but you didn't list any running backs. And I'm curious, I know that's not the position of choice, but the Bengals look like they could use a long-term solution there. Do you think there's any chance they take one early, or is it middle rounds or bust?
Yeah, when you look at what the Bengals have done, and even when you look at when they took Joe Mixon, they took him in that second round. And obviously, as you referenced, the long-term prognosis for the Bengals running back situation, a bit murky. We know that Joe Mixon hasn't been as productive as his salary indicates, with it being one of the highest and that cap hit being pretty large. And the Bengals, as things currently stand, are operating on a little short of a buffer than they usually like with the salary cap. So do they look at somebody like Jahmyr Gibbs, Tyjae Spears, some of these other running backs that you want to get maybe on day 2 or early on day 3 And I think that would be the prime opportunity and the prime position to get a running back in day 2 or day 3 when you look at how much the Bengals throw the ball, the resources that they've invested at wide receiver and at quarterback. I think that getting a running back to complement and not be a focal point and allocating those draft resources accordingly would be the move. But we'll see what happens next weekend.
Ben Baby, thank you so much. Enjoy Las Vegas. I know our crew and staff are really excited that you're out there, and enjoy the fight tomorrow night.
Thank y'all for having me.
You got it. It's time for the good word. Dre and me knocking it down. Since we just got done talking about the Cincinnati Bengals with Ben Baby, let's stick with the NFL. And unfortunately, some bad news for the Detroit Lions. Number of players suspended because they were gambling, not on football, but they were gambling on the Detroit Lions premises. So a number of players have been suspended. Their first round wide receiver that they selected last year, Williams, as well. With that being said, the Detroit Lions minus 170 to make the playoffs. Dre, what's your good word?
Gamble? I mean, I was very confident in the Lions as a playoffs team as of this time like yesterday, before this news came down. The way they ended last season so strong, it felt like everything was moving in the right direction. Aaron Rodgers presumably is out of Green Bay. Nobody really has confidence in the Vikings. So I was really liking the Lions and, even the Bears to really have a chance to win the division. But those suspensions, those are impactful. 2 of them were for essentially the season, and the Lions moved on from them. And then last year's exciting, number 1 wide receiver rookie, Jameson Williams, he got suspended, I believe, for 6 games. So I have questions now that I didn't have before. So until I hear a little more, see what the draft, right now at minus 170, it looks like a gamble to me. So question mark?
My good word is roar. I'm still going to lay it. I like this Detroit Lions team. Many are really high on the Bears coming into this season. I even read a report that more money has been placed on the Bears winning the Super Bowl this year than any futures bet on the books, which is really interesting to me. But nonetheless, my money's on the Lions to win this division. As we know, Aaron Rodgers, he came out, he said, either I'm going to be the starting quarterback for the Jets or I'm going to retire. So we know he's not going to be under center with the Green Bay Packers. I think that opens up things in this division. I like what we've seen from Goff. Each and every season he has progressed. Amon-Ra St. Brown was not one of the players that was suspended. Thank goodness. I might feel otherwise then. They've got a good offensive line, a great defense, a fantastic head coach. So roar, baby. I will lay the 170 for them to make the playoffs. And also, I'm going to put them down at plus 140 to win the division. Let's take a look at in Major League Baseball. The Oakland A's could not be a worse team in Major League Baseball right now. Currently, they only have 3 wins. Their over-under win total is 54.5. What's your good word?
April, as in it's still only April. I looked up the worst records in Major League Baseball history according to percentage, and if we went by right now, we would have 5 of the worst 35 teams of all time playing in baseball based on their April record. The A's only have 3 wins. The Royals only have 4. I'm not quite ready to say that they're worst of all time, Steve. Matter of fact, the A's and the Royals would be 2nd and 4th worst all time, and the other 3 and the worst bottom 5 were in the 1800s. So, I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. 54.5. There's only been 8 seasons, I believe, of 55 or fewer wins this millennium. Maybe Oakland is one, but it's still April. I'm not quite ready for that yet.
So my good word is over. Even the worst teams in Major League Baseball have won at least 60 games. In 2018, the O's, the first team since 2003 to win less than 50 games. Pittsburgh in 2020, but that was the pandemic year, of course, so they went 19-41. The worst record ever with 120 games minimum was the Cole Spiders, and they went 20-134. So Oakland, they've lost 13 of 14, many by multiple runs, but JP Sears has been sufficient. So I'm going over here. I don't believe they'll win less than 54.5. Last but not least, Ja Morant, 9-1 to score the first basket on Saturday against the Lakers. Not even 100% sure he's playing, but still 9-1. What's your good word?
Both. As in, I'm running away from that as fast as Usain Bolt. I just don't like those first scorer props. Like they're too much of a crapshoot for me. And that's in the best case scenario where a player is healthy. I've just seen too many instances where a center or a role player or the other team scores. So if I'm not getting some type of insurance on the bet that, I'll get a bonus either way, I don't tend to like those. We don't even know if Ja's going to play. So right now, I don't know if I can do my Usain Bolt pose here, but I'm running from this one like Usain Bolt.
All right, my good word is Jackson. Why? 65 games, 69% win tip, 20% of the time he takes the first shot, and he's got 10 made on the season, which is at 15.4%, and you can get that at plus 475 for Jackson to score the first basket. All right, Dre, let's dive into this Grizzlies series going up against the Lakers. As we know, they won without Ja Morant. Right now, the books are telling us that you can still get them as a dog at plus 125, but the Lakers to win in 6, which would be 4-2, the series would end 4-2 with the Lakers, you can get that at plus 225. Do you think that's the best play in the series?
I do. Full disclosure, before the series started, when ESPN did their writers' picks, I picked Lakers in 6. Like, that was before the Ja Morant injury questions. That was before the bear poking that Dylan Brooks did. I just thought that was the most likely outcome then. Nothing I've seen so far has changed that, but I did always know this was going to be a close matchup. The Grizzlies are a strong team. I'm on record. I think that the Lakers and Grizzlies, whoever wins this series, probably has the best chance to represent the West in the finals. Like, that's how I feel about this series. So I expect it to be competitive, but coming in, I said Lakers in 6, and if I can get it at plus money still now, I'll go with that now.
Now on Friday, we asked you, do you think the 76ers would sweep the Nets? You said no, Dre. I actually wagered that before tip-off last night. I got that at plus 120 that the 76ers would sweep. Right now, it's like minus, 25,000. Is that even a thing? So are you changing your mind now, Dre? Are you changing your mind?
So it's funny. I'm surprised that I said that because I did think, obviously, there was sweep potential for not just this series, but for all of the top 3 series in the East coming into the playoffs. But I picked all 3 of those to be 4-1. And I guess I'll stick with that now, even though it's like, I think it's actually plus 30,000 that the 76ers are going to win. The Nets have played them tight 2 games in a row. They had a legitimate chance to win last night. And most of the time when a series is 3-0, if the scrappy team is going to win one, it's that last home game, the game 4. And then they go back and get the gentleman swept in 5 once they get back to Philly. So I'll stick with that. I think, 76ers in 5 is a good bet. But if they pull out the broomsticks, well, I can see that happening too.
Well, the Warriors, they got over with no Draymond Green. Steph Curry had one of the Steph Curry games, right? So now this series is kind of a pick'em. Sacramento minus 105, Golden State minus 115. How would you play this in a best-of-5 series?
That's what it is now, and it's difficult. Coming into the playoffs, I wrote that I like Kings plus 1.5 games. Gave me a little cushion because I thought this would be a long series. That's not on the board right now, at least for Caesars. So I think I would lean Golden State, and it's kind of because of what I saw in Game 3. So in the first 2 games, the Kings were able to have success in really blitzing the Warriors' perimeter shooters, in large part because they were setting picks out top with either Draymond or Looney, and neither one was really rolling to the rim. Draymond's not a shooter, so the Kings could just stay up on the shooters and make life hard for them. Well, yesterday with Andrew Wiggins playing the Draymond Green role, he was able to score 20, keep the defense off of the shooters, and that opened it up for Steph to have a Steph game. I think if they continue that moving forward, and oh, by the way, Looney had 20 rebounds, a bunch of them on the offensive board. I could see them winning this series in a close one, So I'm going to lean Warriors. But it's still a tight one because the Kings are for real.
Okay, with that being said, let's talk about the Clippers and the Suns series here. Unfortunate news for the Clippers. 6 hours before tip-off, news broke that no Kawhi Leonard. So, of course, the Suns come out and do Sun things with KD and Devin Booker. So now the series price goes all the way to minus 1,100. With that being said, the books think that the Clippers don't win another game. And you could bet that the Suns win in 5 at around even money. Do you agree with that?
I don't. Coming in, again, I picked the Clippers to have a chance to extend this series. I picked them plus 2.5 games. That Kawhi injury was devastating. We don't really know what to expect moving forward. If he's able to come back for game 4, this could still go the distance. This could be a 7-game series like I picked coming in. But the Clippers play them tough. They gave the Suns their best punch yesterday with Norm Powell and Russell Westbrook combining for 70-something points, and the Suns won anyway. But it took the Suns, and specifically, Devin Booker at his best, to win in what was still a really competitive game. I think the Clippers have pride. I think they put pressure on the Suns, and I think the Suns have to play their 30-something kind of injury risky players a lot of minutes. But they're playing 40-plus minutes a game in order to win these. So if the series extends a little bit, I think the Clippers can win at least one more, either this next one at home or they could steal the one in Phoenix after going 3-1 down when the Suns might relax a little bit.
Dre, really quick before we let you go, anything you've seen in this last week's slate of games that changed your mind on who you have winning the title?
The only thing is the Giannis injury, because I had the Bucks to win the championship coming in, and if Giannis is healthy and himself moving forward, I still think that they're the team to beat. I think they have a better path to the title because the other two contenders in the East, the 76ers and the Celtics, would have to go through each other. And what I've seen in the West as yet, nothing is really screamed out to me, this team is going to beat whoever comes out of the East. So the question mark is Giannis. If that injury that we saw this week lingers, then we have to go back to the drawing board. But otherwise, no, I still have the Bucks as my favorites to win this championship.
Dre, thank you so much. Appreciate you, my friend. Enjoy the games this weekend.
Have a great weekend.
You got it. All right, we go from the hardwood to the pigskin. Not the NFL, it is the XFL. It is the last week of the regular season. Stormy Bounantony joins us now. Great to have you on Bet, Stormy. This is awesome. It is the final week before the postseason. Orlando out of the playoffs. I want to break down all 4 games. Orlando out of the playoffs, but boy, would they love to really take it to the St. Louis Battlehawks, right? Now, they're playing for a lot. They're a big favorite here. -9, the total is 48. They need to win in order to make sure that they get into the postseason. How would you play this matchup?
Yeah, well, you're going to see a consistent theme with me here, Anita. Just because it's a must win or you need to win doesn't always mean that's the result that's going to happen. And granted, I do think that St. Louis is going to walk away with this win, but the cover is a different story. I like Orlando plus the 8.5. I also like the over because with St. Louis and the tiebreaker scenarios, how this all works, they not only need to win big, but they also are going to try to score as many points as humanly possible. Orlando, though, they can score themselves. So I like the over for sure. But here's why I like Orlando. Favorites, big favorites in the XFL this season have not had a lot of success. In fact, if you are a favorite of 6.5 points or more, just 1 in 7, those big favorites. And Orlando, as an underdog, has actually taken home 3 of those covers. They've played well in this role, and Quinton Dormady, who I know has struggled the last couple of weeks with turnovers, he was playing 2 of the best defenses in the league in San Antonio and Arlington. It's not going to be the same story here with St. Louis. And that Orlando offense adjusted significantly, got way better when Quinton Dormady took over, and I think that he'll have an opportunity to get some points on the board. A 9-point spread, it just feels like too many points for me, Anita. And even in the XFL, where we have the 3 extra point potential and all of the different scoring options that you have, it just feels like too many to me for this Orlando squad, who, like you said, who doesn't want to play spoiler this time of year?
Right? Another thing is I'm looking at the total, right? And it's at 48 because St. Louis, there's also an onus on them. They have to put up some points, right? That's going to weigh in and be a factor in regard to whether or not they get into the postseason. So Are you leaning towards the over here because of the points that St. Louis needs to put on the board?
Yes, exactly. Because they have to score. Basically, the way that the tiebreakers work with them in Seattle in the XFL North Division is if we get to a situation where both of these teams win, St. Louis needs to score at least 19 or more points than Seattle. And it's just a weird dynamic. So they have to put up a lot of points. And like I said, I think Orlando can score points as well. So I could see this as being kind of a back and forth type of a game.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I'm on Orlando. Give me the points, and I am going to play the over. San Antonio has to beat DC on Saturday for a shot at the postseason. They're currently a 2.5 home dog. The total's 41.5. How would you play this?
So this is a spot where I like DC no matter what, but my favorite bet in the game is probably going to be DC minus 1.5 in the first half specifically. They've had a first half lead now in 6 straight games, and they haven't led by fewer than 4 points during that time. The average margin of victory actually for the first half is 8.8 points during that 6-game span. And DC is a team that gets out the gates hot. San Antonio is a team we know struggles offensively, and I really feel like they'll be able to take advantage. I understand why some people have some concerns when it comes to DC. Will they be resting guys? And it's a reasonable belief, I suppose. But from what I know, having covered DC 7 times this year, is that Reggie Barlow really wants to win. And the way that his team has played in the second half the last couple of weeks, just really giving up significant leads. We saw them lose outright to Orlando as a 9.5-point favorite a couple weeks ago. Seattle, they had a big lead there and then ended up coming down to the wire at the last minute. And then this past week against Arlington, let that squad score 17 unanswered points and then went to overtime, and DC was lucky to get away with one there. They always seem to be up at halftime, but after the break, it's anybody's game. But with such a short spread and a team in San Antonio that if you take away their 2 big offensive performances against Orlando, their offenses only put up 12.2 points per game against everybody else in the league. So give me DC, especially in the first half.
I like it. Lockstep, I'm following your lead, Stormy. Number 3, and this is a game I'm waiting to go to the window on, right? Because Arlington has a chance to knock out San Antonio, even if they do win. But what if they lose? And they're playing on Saturday. Arlington's going up against Houston on Sunday. Arlington, a very small favorite here at -1. The total's 42.5. How would you play this, knowing that there's Saturday implications affecting this matchup?
Yes, I have been saying the same thing to a lot of people here, Anita. Maybe if you want to bet the spread in this game, just hold off for a second because motivations are largely going to be determined by the results of that San Antonio game. But like I said, I do think the DC is going to win that game. So with that approach, I think it could be wise maybe to get ahead of the total a little bit and bet the under just in case we get a little bit of a glorified scrimmage type of a game. Head coach Wade Phillips for the Houston Roughnecks has already basically come out and said that they're going to rest a lot of guys in this game. I think Arlington, regardless, should still be a little bit motivated, though, given that Luis Perez, their quarterback, is relatively new to their system. Their offense has picked up a good bit with him, but they're still working on reps. They need to build that chemistry. This is going to be the matchup that if Arlington is in a position to play in that semifinal game, this is the matchup that it's going to be. And so I could see Houston maybe not wanting to show a whole lot, even with guys rested, and Arlington just trying to continue to build on that development of the offense. So I lean Arlington. I love the under if we think that San Antonio is going to lose, which I do, maybe getting ahead of that, but maybe just hold off to bet this one until after we know the result of Saturday.
So if you think San Antonio is going to win, which I do, I think DC is going to play their players for the first half and then rest them. And then Arlington is playing for something. Maybe now is the time to jump on that -1. Last but not least, let's talk about Seattle laying a big number here in your state, in your city, and that's Las Vegas, Sunday night. Well, actually, they're playing in Seattle, though, right? If St. Louis
it's in Lumen Field.
All the pressure is on Seattle to win to get in. So they're an 8.5-point favorite. Big total here at 47.5. What looks good here? I know you're going to be on the sideline, so there's only so much you can share with us. But what looks good here for you?
Yeah, so I don't want to give you any plays on the results of the game because as somebody who's calling it, I just feel like that's bad form. But I do think that there's a really interesting angle early on here with Vegas plus 5 points for the first half. They have been one of the best first half teams in the XFL throughout the course of the season. We talk about that with DC, but with this Vegas team, they have had a tie or a lead in 7 of the 9 games that they have played throughout the course of this season. And they always seem to get out to these good starts, but have made poor second half adjustments and just don't really have the finishing ability. They're also playing significantly better since they have brought Jalen McClendon in to play quarterback. He's so athletic, has the dual threat ability to run, which I think could present a little bit of a challenge for Seattle early. And this Seattle team, it's always very, very hard to handicap emotion. Anita, you know that. But this Seattle team over the weekend saw one of their brothers, one of the members of this defense, Chris Smith, pass away, 31 years old. The why and the how is still unknown, but extremely unexpected. And it's had a ripple effect throughout that locker room and the coaching staff. And I know they're going to do a lot of stuff in pregame to honor him and recognize his memory. And you just never know how a team is going to come out. And nobody could fault the Seattle Sea Dragons for coming out a little bit flat in this game. But then there's also the reverse of that, right? We've seen the Buffalo Bills the week after everything happened with DeMar Hamlin on the field, have that Nyheim Hines incredible kickoff return for a touchdown to start. And it was electric that following week that they were on the field. So it's hard to tell how these things are going to go. But my gut feeling tells me maybe a little bit of a slow start for Seattle out the gates. Vegas will have an early advantage. And then that Seattle defense that's been so good. I mean, Ben DiNucci leads the league in passing yards by a mile. Will turn it on in the second half.
Yeah, I'm going to lay the points with Seattle. Stormy, thank you so much. Enjoy the games this weekend, and I'm sure we'll have you back on again as we get into the playoffs. Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate you for having me. Good luck with your bets.
You got it. You got it. All right, as always, we like to end this bet program with Before I Let You Go. And no bigger storyline than this weekend, Saturday night, Memphis going up against LeBron James in Los Angeles with a lot of drama surrounding what happened. Dylan Brooks comments calling LeBron old. Let's play it for you. Listen in.
I don't care. He's old. You know what I mean? I was waiting for that. I was expecting him to do that game 4, game 5. He wanted to say something when I got my 4th foul. He should have been saying that earlier on. But, you know, I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40.
Wow. Just wow. I think this might not be the bear you want to poke, Dylan. But let's break it down for you, right? Like, how does LeBron respond on Saturday night? As we know, he's 38 years old. He's playing with a torn foot tendon. He's been really playing more like a facilitator, right? Waiting for catch and shoot 3-pointers. Only 5 total drives in game 1. Only 1 shot in the 4th quarter. He's 4 of 16 from 3. What did he say this week? This week, he said he's excited to get back at home. Why? Believe it or not, this will be the first time that the home crowd in LA will be at full capacity since they started playing back downtown in LA since 2013. Don't forget they had that COVID year in the bubble. Against the Grizzlies, game 1, LeBron, 28 points, 3 assists, 12 rebounds. Game 2, 21 points, 5 assists, 11 rebounds. In the regular season against the Grizzlies, 23 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. So he never surpassed his par that's up on the books right now at 43.5 for game 3. So how would I play it? This is how I play it. Points, I'm going over. Dude's got a ball. Rebounds, I'm going over. This is where he's been making his bread and butter in this series, over 9.5. Assists, I'm going under. He has not hit that 6 in the first 2 games. 3-pointers, I'm going under as well. The 2 favorite bets of mine is the double-double at -110. I think he gets a double-double with his points and his rebounds, and points and rebounds combined at 35.5. I'm going to take the over. Also, the double-double and points and rebounds combined are my two favorite prop bets for LeBron James on Saturday night. This is going to be a doozy. Enjoy it. We'll be back with you on Monday right here on Bet. Have a great weekend, everybody.